Hello and welcome to the 12th and hopefully not last episode of Full Court Press.
Starting to turn a corner on that.
No. My name is Chris Murphy, and to my right is Star Wars nerd Colton Poole.
Indeed.
And we are Forum sports reporters, and we're going to talk about sports because that's all we're good for. We're going to start off with the North Dakota State swim meet, which happened this last weekend. And Colton, explain.
So, yeah, the North Dakota State meet happened last Saturday and Friday at the Bismarck Aquatic Center in Bismarck. And, yeah, just kind of wanted to...
Is that where the Bismarck Aquatic Center is at? In Bismarck?
And, yeah, I just kind of wanted to run through some results here. First, the All-State team, some kids from Fargo. Anna Astrup from Fargo North, she's a senior. Isabel Chambers, sophomore from Davies. Olivia Hedinger, an 8th grader from West Fargo. Gracie Lingley, sophomore from Fargo Davies. And Mia Winjum, a sophomore from Davies. They all made the first team, the first All-State team. And the second team, Madison Hitcher, an 8th grader from Fargo Davies. Johanna Jones, a senior from West Fargo Cheyenne. Brianna Lund, a freshman from Cheyenne. And Morgan Varberg, a senior from Fargo Davies. They were on the second team for All-State. And, yeah, just kind of running through the results here. Bismarck Century once again won the state championship, but Fargo Davies, they took second with 315 points. Century had 400. And West Fargo and Cheyenne, they were 5th and 6th overall in the team standings. West Fargo, they were runner-up in the 200 medley relay team. Olivia Hedinger, Sophie Weiss, Tatum Brooks, and Mariah Hissey were finished in a minute 50.26. And then the 200 freestyle, Morgan Varberg from Fargo Davies, she finished in a minute 56.99 seconds in the 200 freestyle for third. The 200 individual medley, Reagan Wickall from Fargo Davies, she finished in 2 minutes 15.65 seconds. The 50 freestyle, Gracie Lingley from Davies was second in 24.16 seconds. 1 meter diving, Mia Winjum from Fargo Davies, she won the thing with 427.85 points. The 100 butterfly, Astrup from Fargo North, she won it in 57.85 seconds. The 100 freestyle, Gracie Lingley from Fargo Davies, a sophomore, took first in 51.73 seconds. The 500 freestyle, Varberg from Fargo Davies, she was runner-up in 5 minutes 19.31 seconds. The 200 freestyle relay, Fargo Davies was third with Gracie Lingley, Greta Ivesdahl, Morgan Varberg, and Paige Hennebree in a minute and 40.67 seconds. The 100 backstroke, Olivia Hedinger from West Fargo, she finished in 58.57 seconds for a runner-up in the 100 backstroke. The 100 breaststroke, the best finisher from a local team was Casey Iverson from Fargo South in a minute 10.82 seconds. The 400 freestyle relay, Fargo Davies team consisting of Gracie Lingley, the Vivian Sofranco, Morgan Varberg, and Paige Hennebree. They finished in 3 minutes 37.2 seconds. And, yeah, that rounds up the state swim meet. So just kind of wanted to run through some local results.
Crazy thing about that, well, not crazy, but Fargo Davies finished second overall with a lot of sophomores doing the damage. So, like Grace Lingley, is that what we're going with? Yeah, she's a sophomore. Maya Winjum's a sophomore. And Isabel Chambers, who finished third in diving, is also a sophomore. So they got some young talent.
For sure. They'll be a team, and they have been for a few years, and they'll be a team to watch out for years to come.
Yes. Now let's move on to North Dakota football. Let's move on to the Dakota Bowl. Colton went 3 for 4 last week with his picks in the championship games. For those of you scoring at home, that's 75 that is a C if you are in school. He was 18 for 26 for the playoffs. So let's start with the 9-man game. Colton?
So correctly picked this one. And by a landslide, from Region 1, Wyndmere Lidgerwood beat number 2 from Region 5, Bismarck Shiloh Christian, 60-26. For Wyndmere's 4th ever title and their 2nd since 2010. Wyndmere never trailed, but they did barely lead at halftime thanks to 3 touchdowns from Luke Forch, including a 97-yard kick return in the opening kick.
First kickoff, gone.
And Shiloh Christian opened the second half and got down to Wyndmere Lidgerwood's 12, but the Skyhawks fumbled and the Warbirds recovered. Love the nicknames. And Wyndmere went 88 yards on their next drive to go up 12. And the next time Shiloh Christian found the end zone again, Wyndmere was already up 53-26. Luke Forch finished the game with 168 yards and 4 touchdowns on 10 carries and a touchdown catch, along with his touchdown return. And
that ties a Dakota Bowl record with 6 touchdowns.
So, and Murphy, you covered the game. From your perspective, what worked for Wyndmere and why were they able to run away with such a lead like they did?
Well, when you take the opening kickoff back for a touchdown, that's a pretty good way to start. Luke Force just could not be stopped one way or another. And like I said, that fumble on the opening possession of the second half just destroyed any chances of coming back, because then Wyndmere just that was just all momentum right there. Shiloh just didn't have a chance. It was all Wyndmere, like it's been for most of the season, it seemed like.
Now moving on to the 1A playoffs, also got this one right. Number 1 ranked Hillsborough Central Valley, they defeated number 3 ranked Langdon Area Munich 16-14, a very close game. Hillsborough Central Valley's first title since they co-opt Hillsborough and Central Valley, and the second for each school, Hillsborough and Central Valley. Hillsborough won it back in 2008. Hillsborough, they gave up some yards, 285 total. Langdon Area Munich's quarterback Jacob Delvo went 10 of 22 for 210 yards. But the Burros got some much-needed turnovers. They came up with 3 interceptions. And Riley Peterson's second interception of the game set them up for the first drive of the second half at the Cardinals' 41-yard line. And they finished the drive with a Tyler Bergstrom touchdown pass from Ryan Troftgruben.
That's a great name.
For a 16-6 lead. And Langdon, they had a couple more chances, but Hillsborough's defense, like we've been talking about all year, Hillsborough's defense stood their ground and allowed Langdon just 14 points in this one. I know, Murphy, you were writing your game story for the Wyndmere game during this game. Did you, just from your perspective, what happened in this one?
Didn't see any of it.
And not any of it?
Nope. I was looking down and writing during that. I was waiting for you to ask me something. Yep, I got absolutely nothing to add to this.
I like how you were prepared to answer my question.
I had absolutely nothing to add to this conversation.
You're not adding anything. All right. So let's move on. The Class 2A playoffs. Murphy, you did indeed watch this game.
I had to. I had to write about it.
Number 2 ranked Bismarck St. Mary's. They defeated number 1 Fargo Shanley 31-12. This is the only game of the Dakota Bowl that I got wrong. But Bismarck St. Mary's is their 9th title in 17 title appearances in their 4th in 5 years. St. Mary's defense allowed next to nothing early on.
Both defenses were incredible to start. I don't know if it was so much they were incredible or the offenses were terrible, but there was just nothing going on. And then at the end of the first half is when Bismarck just kind of they really hurt Shanley. I mean, especially scoring a touchdown at the buzzer of the first half to go up 2 scores was just huge.
It kind of sounded like that the passing game worked there at the end of the first half. Did they just kind of find their stride there, or what was?
It was just weird. I mean, you were sitting there watching the game, and you're like, this is going to be 0-0 at half. Is anyone going to ever score? How many overtimes is this going to take before someone finds the end zone? And then all of a sudden, back-to-back 34-yard, 24. I mean, going into the second to last drive for Bismarck, they had 2 first downs the entire game. And then all of a sudden, back-to-back passes, 34-yard pass, 24-yard pass. And you're like, oh, there they go. And yeah, it was huge that swing to then score a touchdown, then force a punt, then to get down to another touchdown and score right before the half. I mean, you go into the half up 14-0. That's just massive. That was it.
So it sounds like they ran it as time expired in the first half.
They got down to the 1. They got down to the 1. They had 2 timeouts, and they got down to the 1, called the timeout with 9 seconds left, ran, got stuffed, called the timeout when there was 3 seconds left, and then they ran again, and they scored. So, if they got stuffed, it could have been a huge turn of events. Absolutely. If they got stuffed going for it and time ran out, then yeah, but nope, they ran it in. They were confident enough.
And you'd think that's a huge momentum swing, but St. Mary's goes on to fumble in the first 2 possessions of the second half.
Shanley had their chances. That was it. That was it right there. First 2 possessions of the second half for St. Mary's, they fumble, and Shanley had their chances and just couldn't do it. They scored 1 to get it down to 14-6, but then St. Mary's just immediately answered with just a backbreaker of a drive, 34 or 84 yards on 13 plays, and then the kicker was on 3rd and 18 to get not only the first down, but they get a 29-yard touchdown pass. That was ball game. You could just see the energy in Shanley just get sucked out. On 3rd and 18, you're ready to get the ball back down 8, and instead 29-yard touchdown pass.
Talking to Troy Mattern before the game, he really made it sound like beating St. Mary's in the regular season was such a huge confidence builder because they hadn't beaten St. Mary's in so long. But St. Mary's is obviously such a both of these teams are incredibly well-rounded, really skilled offensively. But St. Mary's just going into it sounded like Shanley had the confidence, but St. Mary's kind of had the experience and, okay, we know how we lost last time, so we're going to correct ourselves this time around.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is Shanley's got this monkey on their back, this second-place monkey, because what's it been like? Is it 3 of the last 4 years they've lost in the state championship game? That weighs on kids and it weighs on coaches, even though Mattern's in his first year with Shanley. That's on there. That's what he said. He said, we have a second-place bug, I think he said to me right now. And yeah, that's just that until they break through, that's going to be on their, West Fargo. West Fargo has had the same thing going into all this stuff. Is it doesn't matter how long it's been since you've won. If you've lost a bunch of championship games, you start to think too much, and that's kind of what seems to have happened with Shanley.
Now moving on to the Class 3A playoffs. I got this one right. East Region number 1 seed West Fargo. They capped an undefeated season, 12-0, and defeated West Region number 3 seed Minot 56-28. This is West Fargo's first championship since 2003, and their 6th in program history. Packers head coach Jay Gibson, he's 6 for 6 in state championships, and this is their 5th in the Class 3A.
That's 100%
division. And so West Fargo in the semifinals, and keep in mind where West Fargo was coming from last year, or rather 2 years ago and last year. They lost in the semifinals at home to a team that they were kind of widely predicted to beat in Bismarck Century twice. But last week in the semifinals, West Fargo was down to Bismarck, and it looked like it was going to be third time again where they lose in the semifinals because Bismarck had just taken momentum. But West Fargo turned it around in the second half, and that was one of the first times that was the first time that they were trailing at halftime, and the first time that they were maybe tested going into the second half all year. But West Fargo, they They basically did the exact same thing in this championship game. You know, it looked like Minot had enough offensive firepower to take over West Fargo, which is a well-balanced team, so it's not like if they have an offense that can get you points. But Minot just seemed to have all the momentum. But they go into halftime, and Adam Polcheski, the special teams coach, draws up an onside kick, and they go for it. They pull off the onside kick.
Last game of the season, can't hold anything back.
Absolutely. Alex Sell recovers the onside kick, and West Fargo goes on to score 22 unanswered points, which was such, in a game of momentum where Minot's offense is rolling, that onside kick was, talking to Minot's head coach, was extremely deflating for the Magicians. You love the Magicians.
I do love the Magicians.
And yeah, so it was ultimately going to come down to those sorts of things. And Tanner Zepeda, he had a long punt return, and special teams and turnovers is what really broke the back of Minot, who has been in championships now recently or made late runs and haven't been able to win a championship in a while. But in the second half, it was all West Fargo. But Andy Gravedal, he started the game with 2 interceptions on the game's first 3 possessions. But then, he has been running all year, but he really depended on the running game to get first downs in this one. He ended up with 126 yards on 12 carries. And he also had some gorgeous touchdown passes, one of them to Zepeda in the back of the end zone, just a floater right over the top in the middle of the end zone. And then another one in the third quarter to Joe Pistorius. And this was just a jump ball. Pistorius is tall enough and has enough athleticism and vertical jump to just go up and get passes. And Gravedal just trusted him in the end zone and said, "This is my guy. I know there's a defender on him," but just threw it up to him. Alex Sell, he ended up with 108 yards on 13 carries and 2 touchdowns, and tied Luke Lennon with 7 tackles. And Jared Franek had 55 yards on 12 carries and 3 touchdowns. I think that they set Dakota Bowl records for points in a game and rushing first downs, which just kind of shows you how much they chipped away at that, at the Minot defense. And West Fargo totaled 257 yards in the second half to 167 in the first. And, Minot's Creighton Rudolph, he had a great game. He had 3 touchdown passes, but West Fargo, like Gibson was saying before the game, their defense was going to have to be bend but don't break. And they bent. They gave up some touchdowns, but in the second half, they allowed just 7 points, and West Fargo scored 36. So, they did exactly what they needed to do. Rudolph was 21 of 30 for 289 yards and a touchdown to go with 8 tackles. And Lofton Clubundy, he kind of broke West Fargo's back in the first half. He finished with 9 catches for 164 yards and a touchdown. But West Fargo just looked poised, and even when they were down, they looked like they were ready to take control at any moment, and they did.
Is anyone going to beat West Fargo this year? Oh, wait, I guess we don't have to answer that anymore.
The answer is officially nope. And kind of cool, I got a story coming out in the West Fargo Pioneer today, and I got a chance to talk to Tyler Roll, who what kind of a legendary West Fargo football player. He went on to play for NDSU.
And he was assistant coach at Moorhead.
Well, I was gonna say he signed with the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, well, yeah. Spuds are more important than the NFL. I mean, come on.
But he is kind of a, one of our coworkers was tweeting at me about our former coworkers, Adam, who went to West Fargo. He was tweeting me about how he watched Tyler Roll growing up.
Everybody in the area knows Tyler Roll.
Yeah, exactly. And I interviewed him, and he was telling me about how, even if this is their first state championship since 2003, he doesn't really see it as a title drought. And he was talking about how huge football is in West Fargo and how growing up, everyone was playing at the West Fargo field, and everyone would gather for Friday nights. West Fargo is Basketball is really popular. They're incredibly good at softball and baseball and wrestling, absolutely. But West Fargo football is such a huge thing in the community, and to bring home a state championship for a program that's so storied was really a big deal for this town. So, yeah.
You're looking at West Fargo possibly. They won the state title in football. They could win in volleyball. They could win in softball. They could win in baseball. They could win in wrestling.
They could, yeah.
They were in the championship in soccer.
Right. They were in the semifinals.
Okay.
But they won it last year, and they were the favorites going into it. So
this could be a monster season.
Yeah, West Fargo Athletics, they're on a roll. So this is the point in the podcast, like we do whenever we interview someone, where we ask if you've got anything else to add.
I do. I actually do. There was a very cool scene, almost bittersweet for Wyndmere Lidgerwood when they won the state championship. Connor Barton, their tight end, he plays on, I think, both lines. Actually had a very good game. He actually had to block Shiloh Christian's Bartholomew Ogbu a lot, and he handled him pretty well. And that's a kid that's going on to North Dakota State to play football. The Monday before the state championship game, so on Monday, November 6th, he was yanked out of chemistry class and told to gather his things and go home. He thought he was in trouble. He didn't know for what. And he arrived home to find out that his dad had died at the age of 48. And so that was Monday. He woke up Tuesday, and his mom asked him if he wanted to go to school. And he said, he had a great quote. He said, "I think I'm going to go because I still got a state championship I got to play, and my team still needs me. Or my team needs me still," is what he said to his mom. And so he went to school. And it was interesting. I talked to him after Wyndmere Lidgerwood won the championship. I went down to the field and just kind of followed him and just watched what he did. And he was the first guy. First of all, he was let off. He was substituted by himself so that the crowd could give him a standing ovation. He hugged like every player. He was crying. He was the first guy to grab the trophy, the 9-man state trophy, and they let him raise it up. And talking to him, you could just tell like it was just a day-by-day thing. Like he walked through his week with me. He's like, on Tuesday I woke up. My mom asked me if I wanted to go to school. I did go to school. I went to work. I went to practice on Thursday. You could just tell it was just like a get through the day type week for him. So his dad dies Monday. He comes back and wins the state championship on Friday. And then yesterday, so Monday, November 13th, the next Monday after it, he has to go to his dad's funeral. And so, yeah, it was a long week for the Barton family. The football team actually put his dad's initials on a sticker on their helmets for that state championship game, and it was just a cool scene, and it was just incredibly bittersweet. You could tell for him, and I just kind of want to end my rant or my babbling with the quote he gave me at the end of this. I wrote about him. He gave me a good quote about what that felt like to win a state title, and he said it was one of the happiest moments of my life, but at the same time still kind of hit me that he's not going to be there when I get home tonight. So it's kind of like the ups and downs of life. Crazy to think about that, and it was just funny. He said he always knew where his dad was sitting at a sporting event because his dad was the guy giving the refs grief, and he could then hear his mom. He could hear where his mom was sitting because his mom was always the ones telling the dad to sit down and let the refs do their job. So it's just stuff like that, and you could tell like after the game, giant smile when he got the championship, but then when it was kind of setting in what was in front of him, it hit him. So that's life and that's sports, and there you go. That's my 2 cents.
All right, we covered a lot. And thanks for listening. This has been Full Court Press. My name is Colton Poole. I'm a reporter at the Forum and the West Fargo Pioneer. This has been Chris Murphy. Thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you.